The incident has raised alarms worldwide. In Amsterdam, where the flight originated, investigators confirmed that Omar Farouk Abdelmuttalab did pass through security, meaning what he carried went undetected.
I hope I will get safe on my destination. This is the only thing.
In London, police raided an apartment where the suspect might have once lived as an engineering student. During questioning, Abdelmuttalab claimed he was acting on behalf of Al-Qaeda. That has not been confirmed, and yet reports today that the U.S. has known for 2 years that Abdelmuttalab had suspicious links. Somehow, he still boarded the plane with no problems.
There's really two issues. The first, did this individual act alone, or was he part of a broader conspiracy? And are there other plots at work right now?
Despite the incident, the country's overall threat level has remained at orange, where it has been since 2006, when another plot to blow up transatlantic flights was foiled. And even though in the end it was passengers and the crew who averted a possible tragedy in this case, prepare for even tighter security precautions than ever.
And sure enough, those extra security measures arrived quickly, and not just in the U.S. As the CBC's Michael Dick reports, there were also long delays at Canadian airports.
The boards tell the story, delay after delay for many U.S.-bound flights.
Well, they say coming 90 minutes ahead time. Came a little earlier from what happened in Detroit, but still, it's not long enough.
The lines keep growing.
How long have you been in line for now?
It's almost been an hour now.
Is that frustrating you?
To a certain extent, yes.
It's not moving. I don't know what is happening.
Security has been stepped up, not just in Canada, but globally. At France's largest airport, security and baggage checks have been increased. A similar scene in the Netherlands, where Flight 253 originated. Passengers bound for the U.S. are facing even longer check-in times.
Yeah, trust what they're doing here, so yeah, should be fine.
Here at home, Transport Canada issued new guidelines. Passengers will only be allowed to carry on one bag, which will also be searched by hand. Not only can passengers expect to walk through a metal detector, but also undergo a physical pat-down. Some airlines, including Air Canada, say passengers heading to the U.S. will not be allowed to leave their seats, reach for carry-on luggage, or have anything in their lap 1 hour before landing.
Well, I didn't expect this long lineup, but hey, it's security reasons, I guess. So, hey, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Transport Canada says the new measures are temporary, but some wonder if they should be.
Don't do it every once in a while. Do it all the time. Be consistent about it. Because if you hit and miss, it's that one you miss. It's going to end up being whatever happened yesterday, but thank God they caught him.
But who was this would-be terrorist? Why did he try to blow up a plane? And was he working alone? As the CBC's Brooks DeCilia reports, the search for answers began in Britain, where Abdelmuttalab once lived.
Authorities here in London are trying to piece together the picture of an alleged extremist. Police are scouring this upscale apartment for any clue. Abdelmuttalab lived here as a university student. From a prominent Nigerian family, Abdelmuttalab had access to a world-class education. Yet the portrait emerging is full of contradictions. Described by one teacher as a dream student, classmates and friends call the man with self-confessed links to Al-Qaeda friendly and studious.
He comes from a wealthy background. He's well educated. He studied medical engineering. So the numbers do not add up.
This former teacher taught Abdelmuttalab in West Africa, where he says he seemed sympathetic to the Taliban.
Omar actually thought that their ideas were the correct interpretation of Islam.
Abdelmuttalab studied engineering at this prestigious London university between 2005 and 2008. And it's that link to London that has piqued the interest of investigators. This city has been called Londonistan by some, and the UK has even been called a haven for Islamist militants. Shoe bomber Richard Reed, who tried to bring down a jet over the Atlantic between Paris and Miami in 2001, grew up in London. And in 2006, authorities foiled a major UK-based plot to blow up at least a dozen transatlantic flights simultaneously. After studying in London, Abdelmuttalab's family says he studied in Dubai and then Yemen. It's while in the Middle East his father became worried, even reporting his apparent extremist views to U.S. officials, whereby he was put on a terrorism watch list.
It wasn't a surprise because...
This terrorism expert says it's hard to know whether the Nigerian citizen was radicalized here in London or elsewhere. But his time in London raises suspicions about links to Al-Qaeda.
In London, it may lead more quickly to more global activity. The access of facilitators in the population of the UK, because it's a country that has got a long and mature history of terrorist involvement in planning.
Officials here in the UK are now trying to figure out if any link to Al-Qaeda exists, as well as trying to figure out if the accused bomber acted alone.
It wasn't long before reports began to circulate that Abdul Muttalib had met with extremist elements in Yemen, and that's where the plot had been hatched. Yemen is a small country on the edge of the Arabian Peninsula, right next to Saudi Arabia, and not far from troubled Somalia. It's also poor and unstable and has a long history of terrorism. So when the news of the Yemen connection broke, many countries quickly closed their embassies. The CBC's Adrienne Arsenault reports.
The list of closed embassies in Yemen grows, as does the list of reasons to close them. Yemeni authorities today acknowledged the army lost 6 trucks of ammunition. That's worrying, considering the threat from the group Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. It's calling for the, quote, crusaders who work in the embassies to be killed. It's happened before. 19 people were killed in November of 2008 when the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a was attacked. Airstrikes last month reportedly killed 3 suicide bombers on their way to the capital, but there now appear to be specific threats that more violence is planned.
The instability in Yemen is a threat to regional stability and even global stability.
The U.S. anxiety is obviously heightened given the man who tried to blow up the plane Christmas Day was reportedly trained and funded in Yemen. But concerns about Yemeni extremism aren't new. Al-Qaeda's been there for decades, its presence swelling as it becomes more difficult for the group to operate in other countries, such as Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan. We want to fight them and stop them, says the Sana'a resident. We want stability in our society. But Yemen isn't stable. The government has little control outside the cities. It's the poorest nation in the Arab world, with a young, uneducated, fractured, and in places, warring population. Militant groups feed on that.
What you have in Yemen is a number of the same ingredients that are present in Afghanistan and were present in Iraq. But the problem is Yemen's location means you have to find a different way of solving those problems.
Foreign troops would not be welcomed, might only embolden Al-Qaeda's recruitment.
I think Yemen is going to deal with terrorism in its own way and out of its own interests.
Indeed, but while Yemen doesn't want foreign soldiers, it will take foreign funds and training and resources and supplies to fight against militancy. Help it's likely to get very soon. Adrienne Arsenault, CBC News, London.
Meanwhile, back in Canada, new security measures went into effect with long lines.
It was like a 2-day wait they put us on. So now we're on standby to get on something today. It's just tiring.
I think it's worse than what we thought it was going to be. I thought for some reason flying within the country was going to be somewhat simple.
Frustrated passengers.
You know, every minute's precious, and when you lose basically a whole day, it's kind of sad.
And others who took the delays in stride.
There's some toys and distractions. She's okay.
I have my iPod. That's all I need, really. Music.
The government also announced it will install full-body scanners that can see through clothing at most major airports in Canada. Even though, as the CBC's Terry Malevsky reports, many security experts say scanners are not necessarily the best solution.
It is sort of the same pattern that we've seen since 9/11, which is to increase security and not necessarily to improve security.
Michelle Juno-Katsuya is a former RCMP and CSIS officer who says the new scanners are probably necessary because the government must look like it's doing something. But he says the government is letting passengers choose a pat-down instead, and a pat-down does not look into your underwear.
Definitely a pat-down would probably not have been sufficient because we don't go in the intimate area for simply a pat-down.
Other experts say the government is fighting the last threat, not the next one.
Right, we take away guns and bombs, the terrorists use box cutters. We take away box cutters, they put explosives in their shoes. We screen shoes, they use liquids. We limit liquids, they put explosives in their underwear.
we do this full-body scanner, and they're going to do something else.
Bruce Schneier is a U.S. security guru who says the new scanners are just not as good as advertised.
It's not even clear that they would have caught the underwear bomber. We know that they will not catch things that are in body cavities. We know that they won't catch low-density explosives or explosives that are thin, so you could somehow weave it into a garment. I mean, these are not cure-alls.
The government does not claim the scanners are cure-alls, but its own test project in Kelowna, BC, suggests they have some problems. The process was slower than expected, and it turned up a high level of false alarms because of innocent buttons and wallets.
So the question one has to ask oneself is why the government proceeded with technology that their own pilot project found questionable. We can't ask them that because, of course, they shut down Parliament.
This is a classic knee-jerk reaction and an expensive one that I don't think anybody is certain will make any difference or make Canadians safer.
Now, the Transport Minister, John Baird, emphasized again today that the new scanners are not meant to be a magic bullet and that there will also be surveillance of passengers' behavior. That is not likely to go as far as the Israeli model, meaning a thorough grilling before you get to the gate. But it's clear that in future, airport security will take a close look at your body and your mind.
As for the man responsible for this latest security scare, he wasn't saying much, at least publicly. And as the CBC's Neil MacDonald reports, his first court appearance was a brief one.
Umar Farouk Abdulmutallab has, as they say, lawyered up since he entered America's penal system on Christmas Day. Today, he surfaced for a total of 3 minutes in a Detroit court, just long enough for him to say he understood the charges against him and for his lawyer to plead not guilty. Not guilty to charges of attempted use of a weapon of mass destruction. In this case, the explosives stuffed into his underwear that authorities say just burned his legs instead of blowing up a flight from Amsterdam. Also not guilty to attempted murder of everyone on the plane, and not guilty to trying to destroy an aircraft. Despite his burns, Abdulmutallab walked into and out of the court. There are a lot of Muslim Americans in Michigan, and several demonstrated against Abdulmutallab outside.
We do not condone terrorism. We do not support terrorism in any way, and terrorism is not a part of our religion whatsoever, no matter what you may hear, no matter what terrorists may say.
Abdulmutallab might be silent now, but not after the airplane landed. U.S. officials say he talked willingly for more than a day before changing his mind.
That opportunity to press him very aggressively provided us very useful intelligence right out of the box.
And in any event, with so many witnesses to what happened, the case is likely a slam dunk.
The government is really going to focus here on keeping its case as simple as possible, as straightforward as possible. I doubt you'll hear any references to Al-Qaeda or international terrorism or things like that. I really think they want to try to get this case done as quickly and as simply as possible, and then seek the maximum sentence that will be available.
That won't be the death penalty. A victim has to die for that to be imposed here, but Abdulmutallab isn't likely to ever breathe free air again. Neil MacDonald, CBC News, Washington.
As for passengers, they're likely to see even more airport security, as security personnel try to keep airline travel flowing smoothly while remaining one step ahead of the terrorists. And that's News in Review. Don't forget to check out our website at newsinreview.cbclearning.ca. I'm Carla Robinson. Thanks for watching.
I've been working there for over 20 years now, trying to understand how these things change over time and how these ecosystems can both tap into the energy of the volcano and at the same time avoid getting smoked.
It's a mysterious world, both threatening and beautiful.
They're found nowhere else on Earth. This is an ecosystem that is essentially not dependent on solar energy to live. And in many ways, it's an ecosystem that we could find on other planets.
And now you can explore it on your computer. On News in Review today, Canada's amazing Neptune project. Hello, I'm Carla Robinson. Although oceans cover about 70% of the Earth's surface, they remain this planet's final frontier. Dark worlds full of amazing creatures and complex processes we are only beginning to understand. Now, to help us find out more about life at the bottom of the sea, some Canadian scientists have set up the world's largest cable underwater observatory. It's an observatory that plugs directly into the internet, so scientists can conduct deep water experiments from labs and universities all over the world. And you can use your computer to surf the sea floor. The CBC's Frederick Zalek has more on the Neptune Canada project.
A team of researchers is getting ready for a groundbreaking mission on the west coast of Vancouver Island. They are launching an ambitious project to shed new light on a dark, remote world thousands of meters below the surface.
We better map the dark side of the moon than the floor of the oceans.
I'm being asked to build the Marine Space Station, and I couldn't say no.
These scientists are aiming to have a permanent presence in the Pacific by setting up a network of underwater observatories, a revolutionary idea that could change our knowledge of the oceans and of their impact on the planet. July 2007, we are on board the research vessel MV Thompson for a 2-week mission